Hello and welcome to CJB Games, Cameron here, and today we are continuing work on groundskeeping. Firstly, today we'll be creating some environment art. Last sprint we finished the playground, and today I want to make the intra-road area. More specifically, I am starting with the grass that surrounds the road. With the model made rather quickly, let's bring it straight into Unreal and apply the material we already have from last time. Luckily, placing it should be really easy as well, as it has the same world position as the export I modelled it from. Now we can use the foliage tool that we already have set up and place all the grass all over it. This part does a good job of hiding the seam between the two sections of the ground. With the grass section done, we can now start to model the road that goes next to it. For extra detail, I added some potholes and cracks just to make it look all more believable. After unwrapping the road, I can now bring it back into Unreal and start to place it. Now that both grass and road are placed, I can carefully add grass and plants to the edge to make the gap between them look a bit more convincing. Well, now I just want to take a little break away from the art and get a small quality of life improvement added to the game. Basically, there are two ways to play the game, solo and with friends. Both have an in-game options menu, but both don't actually pause the game at the moment. I want to make a quick check to see what type of game the player is in, and if they're in offline play, the game will actually freeze when they click pause. With that done, we can get back to the art, and more specifically, the puddles. Now, it has to be said, I struggled to make anything that looked remotely good in a time frame that I was willing to give myself for this. And this task is the perfect candidate for finding something off the marketplace that will look 1,000 times better than anything I can do. Whilst that is downloading, I'll continue working on the road with the texture. For this, I'll be heading over to Substance Painter and creating the texture there. This didn't take too long, as it was a very similar texture to the one I'd already made for the playground tarmac. One thing I never usually make, and for good reason, is decals. But when it comes to cracks and marks to the road, I kind of want to give my own sort of attempts at it first. Even though it'll be easier to find some decals probably, I think these are subtle enough that I can make sort of shit details without ruining the art of the game. As well as cracks, I also made some general shadows that I could line the edge of the road to give it more definition. So now that the puddles are downloaded, I can begin to add them to the project. As well as generic puddles, there were tyre tracks that came with this pack as well, that I just had to add. I'm very happy with the quality of these, and I'm sure I'll be using them a lot more. So I think that about does it for the art in this episode, and we can move on to the just as interesting menu improvements. Currently, there are no options that the player can alter the game with, so I want to add the functionality that they can edit certain things. This is great, as I want the game to be able to run on a lot of different PCs with a lot of different specs. I also want to add all these options to the save and load function, so that the game will always remember how the player has optimized their copy of the game. The first option I want to add is the ability to enable and disable players' motion blur when they look around. This was decided after some feedback from an earlier playtest. With the options section in the main menu done, I want to replicate this and put it in the pause menu as well. With this, all players will be able to optimize the game, whether they're actually in a session or on the main menu. So, with one video option added, I now want to add my first audio option for the game as well. This will be a simple volume select. For now, there will just be a master option to change, but eventually I want there to be separate options for music, sound effects, and UI effects, etc, etc. So that about does it for this episode of the creation of Groundskeeping. I'm very happy with the progress I've made so far. Thanks for watching guys, and subscribe to see more.